If you were paid not to be online leading up to the presidential election, would you take it? Find out the details here today on Jimmy Rants. Click on that little box down there in the corner. It'll take you straight to IGTV for today's episode. JimmyRants.com is the website, and as always, you can engage live in the content. We go here live Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern Time, right here on Instagram. So go follow me there at Livin' Low Carb Man, LIVINLOWCARBMAN. Once you are there, engage live in the content. We try to give you lots of different mix of different things from time to time. So thanks for being here today. We also simulcast live over here on my Facebook page. Thanks to all my Facebookers. And we also simulcast live on YouTube Live. I'm not sure anybody else does a show with 3 different lives going all at the same time, but we do here on Jimmy Rants. If you missed the live, you can watch it on replay right here on Instagram. So go check it out over at IGTV. That's where we put it. And then we also put the past episodes up over on YouTube. I am growing like crazy my YouTube channel. So thank you to everyone who watches on YouTube and watches the replays. Go check out Jimmy Rants there. If you type in a keyword Jimmy Rants, you will find the show. And then finally, you guys, the best of the best is at the official website for this show. It's JimmyRants.com. And my friend Lone Star Keto Girl just said, howdy, howdy, girl. So go check that out. And while you're there, you can see all the past episodes, but you can also support my work. A lot of you guys have been wanting to know how you can support me. So I have a PayPal link for a one-time donation, or the Patreon if you want to do monthly support. I had a really sweet lady over the weekend. She sent me a $10 a month Patreon thing, and she's like, I wish I could give you more because the things that you teach me through your rants, through your podcast, through your books have just been so invaluable in my life. And I think if you get great value out of someone who's educating you, then you pay for it. And so that was a great philosophy to take, and I was very appreciative of her. So, all right, you guys, thank you. Thank you for being here today. Good Monday morning. I like to bring you all kinds of topics. A lot of times in the world of nutritional health, and I've got a bunch of nutritional health kind of in the pipeline for this week, as well as like emotional health and things like that. But today, I could not help but talk about what I'm going to talk about here today, because we are heading into the home stretch of probably the most contentious presidential election we have ever seen. And in my lifetime, I've seen a lot of contentious presidential elections. If you were alive back in the year 2000, when that was going on, that was a pretty strange, contentious election. Yeah, we've had a bunch in our lifetimes, that those of us of a certain age. But 2020, I don't think we've ever had a more important one in all of our lives. And so it's interesting to me, some of the things that are going on around it. And this thing that I'm going to bring to your attention here today was very fascinating to me. And I definitely want to hear your thoughts on whether you would participate in something like this or not. So we all know how beneficial it is to learn about candidates and their positions and what they believe based on information we see on the internet. And a lot has been made that social media plays a very influential role in what people believe when it comes to candidates and political positions and all of that. And so Facebook has decided that this is the moment in time when they want to conduct a study. And the study, you guys, will be how much would it take to get you to go off of social media between right now, which is about 6 weeks before the election, all the way to election day. Would you go completely offline, get off of all social media if they paid you? And it's kind of an interesting thought experiment. Think about that for a moment. What would it take for you to not be online at all? Now, let's be clear. There have been a lot of people in the entire year of 2020 who have completely gone offline on their own volition. And that's kind of an interesting little side note to this study they want to do, is a lot of people have already pulled themselves offline because of the negativity that happens in the midst of this. So we've had COVID-19, we've had the race relations stuff, and we have the presidential election stuff, plus all the normal stuff people bicker about on social media. And people have kind of fled that. A lot of the influencers in the keto carnivore health space have all said that their following has been kind of stagnant this year, or very, very slow growth compared to other years. And so people are already doing this. But if you're just joining us, Facebook, you guys, is conducting a study. They want to see, can we pay people to get offline, to get off of social media? And I have a story here that talks about this study, a little bit of the whys and how it would work. So this is from digitaltrends.com. Facebook is paying some users to suspend their accounts before the 2020 election. So imagine this, if Facebook offered to pay you to temporarily shutter your account, would you take the money? Such an offer could even be coming your way after it emerged. The social media networking giant is offering cash payments to some Facebook and Instagram users as part of a study to learn about the effects of social media on democracy. Here's the funny thing to me. Okay, you get someone to go off of their normal social media channel. What about creating a burner account? We know that a lot of famous sports stars and Hollywood actors, they have fake accounts that they create so they could say things and then see things without having to be seen for who they are. What would stop someone from starting a burner account? What would stop someone from still consuming the information, even though they don't have an account that would be active? If they shut it down, that doesn't mean you can't see the content on social media. You can see, unless they have their settings, the user that you're trying to look at has their settings set to private. What would stop those people from just logging on and looking at the public accounts? And so if you do that, are you really prohibiting them from seeing the information? And here's another thing. It's not like they don't have access to the internet. They would still be able to surf the web. So they would just go to other sites that aren't social media. It would promote them or push them to these aggregate sites, things like Drudge Report, and even just news sites directly. They wouldn't necessarily just be getting the opinion that would come along with it. But there's so many places online where you could get information if you were like seeking it out, that this whole notion that social media has some kind of a magical power to persuade you in an election is kind of funny to me. So guys, if you just joined us late, yes, Facebook is now conducting a study where they're paying people to get off of social media between now and the election. They're trying to see what impact does it make if you're not online engaging in social media leading up to an election. Does it persuade you to vote differently and da-da-da? So we're going to get into the details a little more here. Acknowledging how political debate has erupted online since the advent of sites like Facebook and Instagram, and the responsibility that this brings, the company, talking about Facebook, said this week that it will undertake research aimed at learning how more people interact with Facebook and Instagram during the upcoming presidential elections. Well, that's the thing. People look for information. Why is that a bad thing? Like, to me, in the midst of what they're calling the most important presidential election of our lifetime, isn't more information from a variety of standpoints a good thing? Isn't it important that we get all the good, bad, and ugly from both sides of issues so that then we make an informed decision about what we believe is best? Like the last time I checked, more information never hurt anybody. I know it's in vogue in 2020 to censor information that goes against the mainstream, but who says the mainstream message is right? Who says what we're being told about things is the correct thing? At the end of the day, I want to see all the good, bad, and ugly of one candidate, all the good, bad, and ugly of another candidate, and then the truth about what I believe is going to be in the middle of those two extremes. And yet Facebook is basically paying people, don't get online. We don't want you to see any of that. And what impact would that have? To continue to amplify all that is good for democracy on social media and mitigate against that which is not, we need a lot more objective, dispassionate, empirically grounded research, Facebook said in a post on its website. Okay, to amplify all that's good for democracy on social media, mitigate that which is not, we need more objective, dispassionate, empirically grounded research. I have no problem with people being passionate about what they believe in. I want to see somebody that's a Democrat that makes the case for why they are in support of their chosen candidate. I want to see a Republican that is so super passionate about why they support their candidate. And what I'm looking for is not hyperbole or propaganda or the other guy is bad and mine is good by default because the other guy is bad. I want to see, why is it that you support the candidate you do support? I did a social experiment recently on social media where I said, okay, here's the ground rules. You can only say who you are for and the positive things why you're for that person. You cannot in any way disparage the other candidate when you make your comment. And I put that on my Instagram page. I put it on 3 different Facebook pages just to see what would happen. And guys, it was an amazing success. I fully expected I would get all kinds of people posting things that were negative about the other candidate, or even like a passive aggressive kind of comment. Well, if we didn't have an orangutan in the, that kind of thing. I only had to delete like 2 or 3 comments. And I told people, I will delete it if you're ugly towards the other candidate. Tell me what's good about your candidate. And it was just fascinating to me that you can actually have those kinds of conversations on social media in a public forum and be productive without letting it get to the vitriol. The problem is when people are left to their own inhibitions about what, they don't care. They're just going to write. They're going to be ugly and they're going to be less tactful. Maybe that's where we can have the discussion of how social media has become a hellhole and how it could be shifted if you had rules in place that didn't allow it to be that way. Like imagine if a store, you go into a store and you got the kind of conversations in a Walmart, for example, that you hear and see on social media. Can you imagine? You're like the worst flaming idiot in the whole world. You should just go F yourself and die. Oh yeah, well your mama sucks, you know what, and I'm gonna like kick her in the, you know what. Like it would be weird, right? Like we don't accept that in our culture, in our society, in real life. Why do we put up with it on social media? So a lot of the problems of Facebook and the contentiousness of social media in general has to do with decorum. And I know this is a little bit off topic. I'm going to get back to the story here in a minute, but social media could be a brilliant place for real conversation and discussion to take place if people were made to behave. And there are ways, if you set up ground rules and you set up a system that takes care of people that don't play by the ground rules. If you set up ground rules that say, okay, you want to play in our sandbox, here are the rules, and if you don't do it, you will be ousted. How many would sign up for that social media right now? I know I would. I would love to just go on, even if it's people of differing opinions. I had a lovely conversation with someone on Facebook just Thursday or Friday, and she's all about the Black Lives Matter organization and the good things that they're doing, and I've been expressing some of my concerns about some of the violence that's happening. And we had this very impassioned on both sides and yet respectful of each other conversation on a Facebook page. Lovely black lady named Connie, and I had a great time talking to her because she was reasoned in her responses, no personal attacks against me and vice versa. I didn't say anything back to her, and I expressed my concerns, and we had this kind of, oh wow, I can see where you see it from that perspective. Oh yeah, and then I said the same thing. Oh wow, yes, I had no idea that that was a part of it, da 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 da. And that's how it should be. This contentiousness is absolutely unnecessary, and yet that's where it defaults to very quickly. If you ever get on a page, and of course you guys know I have a lot of content, so just on one of my posts that I did over the weekend on Instagram, I posted a video about the New Zealand people that are trying to fight for their freedom there. And there was this back and forth between a lady, and I was watching it. I was letting them kind of go. But the longer it went, then I knew it was headed towards personal attacks. And as soon as the personal attack came, I just deleted them. Because there's no sense in letting it devolve to that level. And yes, that is social media. And that is part of what kind of creates this division when you come to looking at information about political candidates, for example. Are you guys noticing this, that in the presidential election, it's really not a, here's what my guy is for and why I support them. It's how bad the other guy is, or how mentally incapacitated the other guy is. And it's just bad. Like, it just kind of continues on and on and on. And I'm thinking, to what end? What does that serve? So removing people from that is probably not a bad idea. But it'll be interesting to see what the results are of their study. Again, just joining us, Facebook's doing a study, paying people to get off of social media between now and the election to see if it has an impact on how they believe about the political candidates. We need to better understand whether social media makes us polarized as a society. Is that a question? Because I think it was inevitable that social media was going to polarize us greatly. Because think about it. You express an opinion, someone comes back strongly at how idiotic you are for your opinion, or someone comes back and agrees with your opinion and adds to it and adds some snarky comment about the other side, which then draws in someone that says, well, wait a minute, my guy's not this, your guy's this. Oh, no, wait a minute, and then it becomes this contentiousness. I think social media is built in to create conflict for the sake of conflict. I don't think we are as divided and polarized as social media and the media in general promoting all these divisions, so-called divisions of Americans. I don't think we're as divided as we think we are. I think there are things in place that are making us feel like we're divided. Like, do you believe that? Do you guys believe we're truly a divided nation, that irreparably we can't come together behind the notion of what makes us Americans? Like, I refuse to believe that. Yes, we have differences of opinion. Yes, we have differences of philosophy. A lot of those differences, by the way, are predicated on a lack of education about like how the country was founded, what the principles of the country are about, what capitalism is, and all the historical things that they're trying to wipe out. The history guides us as to how we got to where we are now, and a better history was taught and better understanding of the various issues. It's amazing to me, and I watch a lot of YouTube videos where they do the man on the street kind of interviews, and you ask them why they support some candidate or why they oppose some candidate, or you talk about the issues, and they have no clue. All they know is, well, this person bad, that person good, so therefore I'm voting for that person. And it's unfortunate. Critical thinking is gone, and that's another thing social media has done. It's taken away any need for critical thinking. When you can attack someone and be just as, in your mind, effective at getting your point across, calling someone every F word in the book, then that's the modus operandi that people run under. Or if it largely reflects the divisions that already exist. I think it's a little bit of both. We can say social media makes us more polarized, but I think the divisions are there at some minuscule level. But think about it, before social media, we just had disagreements but we didn't have this daily barrage of those opinions being put out there in a very easy to digest, easy to react to kind of way. Used to, when it was newspapers and magazines, you'd have to write this thing called a letter to the editor to get your point across that you disagree with something. That's how things used to be. Now it's this instant. If you go to Twitter, all you got to do is put in some keyword of something you were trying to follow, and you could get into every Twitter war you ever wanted to be in. And that's how easy it is. If it helps people to become better informed about politics, talking about social media, or less, or if it affects people's attitudes towards government and democracy, including whether and how they vote. I think social media does all of that and more, but it's only a part of the process. So Facebook wanted to do this study, you guys, paying independent researchers, so-called independent researchers, to see if they could get people off of social media and what impact it would make. So they have partnered with 17 independent researchers who are carrying out the study. It will involve as many as 400,000 U.S. residents who agree to take part. So 400,000 is a good chunk. Now we're 330 million, but 400,000 is about 1% of the population. Could they have gotten, say, 3.3 million people involved? That would have been 10% of the population that maybe would have been a little more relevant. I don't know. But 400,000 is a good representative sample, I think. A lot of times when they do the presidential polls, it's like 1,200 people of 330 million. So this is a lot more than that, 400,000 people. The research will involve multiple research methods, such as targeted changes to their experience with Facebook and Instagram. That's the most interesting one to me. In the research, they're not going to make everybody get off social media. Some people will stay on social media, and in staying on, they will purposely put specific content in front of them. This is the one that I think crosses that real teetering on the line of ethics here. Because what if one of the targeted changes to their experience is only showing them one side, one candidate's information? Is that good? I don't think so. Or framing the stories that they're allowed to see to only be positive about one specific political party. That would also be problematic on either side. If it's just Democrat, if it's just a Republican, if it's just Biden, if it's just Trump, those would be problematic if they're actually going to do that. And even a request to stop using the platform for a specific period of time. So not just are they getting people off of social media, but ones that stay on, they're going to target them. I guess they're trying to see if all that targeting of a specific candidate would lead people to actually vote for that specific candidate when they had an inclination to vote for the other person. I suppose there's some value there, but aren't you impacting an election for the sake of a study? And is that ethical? So I guess there's a lot of issues here. While Facebook makes no mention of any payments, the Washington Post on Thursday tweeted a message from Facebook already received by some of the participants in the study, asking how much they would need to be paid in order to deactivate their account for either 1 week or 6 weeks starting right now. 3 choices were offered. They were either given $10 a week, $20 a week, or $30 a week. Okay? Facebook later confirmed the payment system, saying anyone who chooses to opt in, whether it's completing surveys or deactivating Facebook or Instagram for a period of time, will be compensated, which is fairly standard for this type of academic research. I can confirm, because I've been a part of a lot of different studies, they will give you a very small stipend of about $25 to $30 for your participation. Facebook said that while its study won't settle every debate about social media and democracy, it believes the research will advance society's understanding of the intersection of technology and democracy and help us all to shape the rules of the road for the internet for the benefit of our democracy and society as a whole. Can I tell you, I'm a little concerned about some of the steps that people like Mark Zuckerberg from Facebook have taken, because they kind of feel like that in 2016, their platform was abused for the benefit of a specific candidate over another candidate. And there was no evidence of that. I never saw anything of the sort. And yet that's kind of this popular notion. And so they feel like, well, we need to prohibit certain information from being seen in the last 6 weeks of an election. And they've already kind of talked about, after the election is over, nobody's going to be able to declare a winner. We will call that fake news and we will remove it. And it just, to me, I think they are overstepping their bounds. Now, they're an independent company. They can do what they want, I suppose. But if they're going to pretend like that they're for trying to give good information and letting the information speak for itself and allowing people to have access to the platform to speak freely their opinion, we know that's not true in 2020. They have openly admitted we are censoring certain information, especially regarding COVID-19, for example. You couldn't post that video from Dr. Stella Emanuel about hydroxychloroquine because it's considered fake news. You can't post about the Plandemic movie because it's misinformation. And so these are the kind of things we're already seeing. So that was just the litmus test for what they're about to do in these last 6 weeks before the presidential election. They're going to be blocking certain information. And for some people, they're like, how can you do that? Well, they are an independent company that can do, private company that can do what they want, but they're pretending like their platform is predicated on an openness of sharing your thoughts and opinions. And some people are finding out the hard way that's not at all. And here on Instagram, a lot of people are being shadow banned for talking about specific things. Shadow banning means somebody tries to look you up, they can't find you. And sometimes your own followers try to see your content and they don't see your content. So that's very real as well. That's not brand new. They've been doing that to some of us in the alternative health space for several years, but it's become a lot more prevalent here in 2020. So the results of this study that Facebook is conducting are expected to be published by the middle of next year. Facebook received a lot of criticism after the 2016 presidential election. Research suggested that 126 million Americans saw political ads paid for by Russian organizations intent on influencing voters. I don't think there's any evidence of that. The Mueller investigation, they looked into it and they found a whole lot of nothing. So I don't agree that the whole Russians meddled in the 2016 election is just nonsense. It was settled, it did not happen, and yet that's kind of a notion that they're still putting in articles like this. Can there be ads put out there that would, I guess, be influential? I suppose, but that's called politics. That's called the election cycle. There are groups outside of the main candidates that run their own ads, these political action committees that run their ads for whoever their chosen candidate is, and so these things aren't new. And so why suddenly would you not allow them? And here's the thing, okay, a political ad is out there. Does that convince everybody though? Like, really? A political ad does not really do much for me one way or the other. They're more amusing than anything. And it kind of makes you go, okay, well, that's interesting that that candidate or that advocacy group for that candidate thinks they need to say all those things in order to help their candidate. It's kind of like fun for me to watch how they try to manipulate and propagandize people, but I guess it works enough that they feel like they need to crack down on it. To me, it's just words, it's just information that you assimilate and go, okay, that's interesting, and you don't really do much with it. Keen to do things the right way this time around in 2020, Facebook says it now has 3 times as many people working on safety and security, more than 35,000 in all, and has reduced down on fake news on its platform by more than 50%. How do you define fake news? What is fake news? The last time I checked, information is information. Nothing fake about any information. It could be bad information, it could be good information, but information is information. There is no fake news. It's not like there is some information that is absolutely right, and anything off of that absolutely right is absolutely wrong. I think that's where we go wrong in identifying certain bits of information as misinformation or fake, and not letting people decide for themselves what is true in their minds and what is not true. And this is a slippery slope, you guys. I mean, they can do all these measures they want, having safety and security issues, more than 35,000 people looking at that. And by the way, if you're on Facebook, you can go into your settings and go under block. And so you could look at block and then type in, when you're in there, fact checker. So type in the keyword fact space checker and then press send, and you'll see who the fact checkers are that are looking at your page. So if you've had anything where they put a fact check on something you posted, or where they have censored you in some way, it's those fact checkers. I checked it today. I found out about this just today. I checked it today and there were 8 fact checkers on my Facebook page. I don't know if there's something similar here on Instagram, but definitely on Facebook, guys. Go to your settings, click on the blocking, and then type in fact checker, and you can actually block every single one of those fact checkers so they can't see your content anymore. Now, I'm sure once they're blocked, they put a new set of them. There's 35,000 of them, so they're probably going to keep it. But you can do that on a daily basis and keep blocking all these so-called fact checkers, and then they wouldn't know what you're posting. So just a little tip for you Facebookers here today. It has also tightened the rules on political ads. This is talking about Facebook again, and recently launched a voting information center offering a range of resources. Can I tell you, it is so nauseating to log on to Instagram and to Facebook lately, and all you see is, oh, we're going to help you vote by mail. Oh, here's your election center headquarters, and we're going to help you in the vote. I'm like, I don't need your help. I don't. I'm a very highly intellectual guy, can do my own research. I know when the election day is. I know who I'm going to vote for. Bug off. But the problem is they keep putting it on there every day, every day, every day. And I literally don't remember them doing that before the 2020 election. You guys noticing that too? Yeah? Despite the changes, Facebook continues to face many challenges when it comes to handling misinformation and other nefarious content on its platform, with the upcoming election certain to shine an even brighter spotlight on its activities. Well, again, who determines what misinformation is? To me, calling something fake news, calling something misinformation misses the point. If something runs counter to what you believe, that doesn't make it misinformation. It doesn't make it fake news. It just makes it other information and other news. Regardless of what you believe, there's another side to the story. And we're not going to protect people from seeing the other side of the story, and nor should we. You talk about the most un-American thing you could possibly do is to shut out voices of dissent of what you believe. Guys, I'm one of those personality types of, I want to hear my point of view challenged. I want to know, okay, this is what I believe, but I want to know why someone believes the opposite, or why someone believes my belief is wrong. Most of the time, I don't get that conversation. I tend to get, you're an idiot for believing that way. How dare you believe that way? I'm going to unfollow you because I had no idea you believed in such beliefs and blah, blah, blah. I still don't know what they disagree with. And I honestly want to know, if you disagree with something I say, tell me what I said that you disagree with. And not just have a personal attack party on me. You guys notice that as well? Like, social media has just become this hateful place. And it's been that way for a little while. Twitter has been a lost cause for years. Facebook has become that way. Instagram's pretty decent, but I'm seeing it slowly start to slip in to the zeitgeist of how discourse is done publicly on Instagram as well. But it's a shame. But what do you think about this? Facebook conducting a study, paying people to get off social media, and paying people to be targeted with only one kind of information to see if it has an influence on who they vote for in the presidential election. Very, very fascinating. $30 a week? $10 a week? Would you do it for that? There'd be a lot of people that would. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. All right, let's see what you guys have to say. We're going to come to Instagram first, then over to Facebook, finally over to YouTube. Thank you all for being here today on Jimmy Rants. JimmyRants.com is the website. See what you have to say. Lone Star Keto Girl says, sad is what it is. Yeah, it's a sad state of affairs that we've gotten to this point where social media has just gotten so freaking ugly. And again, I think a platform that could set ground rules of being respectful, or you will be given 3 strikes. The first time you're just warned and they delete your post, your comment. The second time you are warned and you are given a 1-week suspension and your post is deleted. The third time you're just blocked from the site altogether. I would be for that. And again, they need to be explicit about what they're, no personal attacks, no passive aggressive language, just speak intellectually, speak as if you were in person. I would sign up for that social media. If I knew what to do, I would create that social media. Who wants to come to Jimmy Book? Jimmy Book is the wonderful place for awesome discussions without any kind of hatred or ugliness. When I did that post a couple weeks ago about tell me what's good about the candidate you support, I had so many people that said, oh my God, you pulled off what I didn't think was possible on social media. And that was to get people to be respectful. And again, other than 2 or 3 people that were just complete you-know-whats, everybody played by the rules and everybody was wonderful. And it was from both sides. Now, most of them were for one candidate over the other, but I was quite honestly shocked by how restrained people were from saying anything bad about the other candidate when that seems to be all you see out there on social media. Sadzi says, the social dilemma on Netflix really puts this into perspective and how social media has been targeting on manipulating our behavior. Have you seen it? If yes, what are your thoughts? No, I have not seen it. Netflix is promoting pedophilia, childhood pedophilia right now with that stupid show Cuties. And so they're not getting any of my money. So no, I have not seen that. If the social dilemma is available in any other format except for the child pedophiles, then I'm happy to take a look at it, but probably won't do it. Rachel says, I just watched The Social Dilemma. So scary. The systems running all of the social platforms are run by AI that even the creators don't fully understand. And the AI technology, the bots that they have in place that are, I guess, monitoring everything. Guys, I got bit by a bot on YouTube last year when they completely removed my account. And it just took it all the way down. All my videos that I had built up for 15 years just completely vanished in a flash. Got no explanation, no nothing, it was just gone. And thankfully enough of my followers wrote to them and said, well, wait a minute, there was nothing about his posts that were hateful or anything that would have warranted removing his account. And after about 3 weeks, they put it back, but it was a bot that did it, the AI technology that did it. And we don't realize how much of everything we write on every single social media page, everything about every action we do on all of these platforms that I'm going live on right now, they're monitoring it. They're using that as data. They're targeting you with ads based on things that you're writing. And let's be honest, they're listening through the devices as well because you're being targeted. Like if you talk about, man, I've been out of toilet paper since the coronavirus started and toilet paper is just so bad and toilet paper and you're going to get an ad for toilet paper pretty quick. You know you've seen that. You have. I could even get Alexa over there to reorder some toilet paper if I needed it. They listen. They hear. So the technology is scary. Teresa says, I do believe we're not getting the whole story. Look at Ansel Keys. Yeah, I mean, that's a fine example in the nutrition space, but it goes across every aspect of our culture. We're not being told everything. And certain things are being hidden from us. And certain things are being put front and center in front of us. So all of that's true. Beth says, I'm mostly on TikTok now instead of here in Facebook. It's all too much for me, too emotionally charged. Yeah, you're not alone, Beth. I've seen a decided exodus of people. Now, I'm still growing on all my platforms, but it's a lot slower growth than it usually is. And I attribute that a lot of people got off of social media. Sadsy says, a lot of whistleblowers from the platforms like Facebook and Instagram. Yeah. I hope they keep blowing the whistle, because there's a lot of shenanigans that go on behind the scenes that I think if Americans knew all the things that they were doing behind the scenes. And here's the other thing. Let's not pretend like Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg on down, don't have an ideological bent. They have made it very clear that they are all in on a certain ideological bent. It's obvious. Nobody is going to argue that. It's obvious. Even though when they had to testify on Capitol Hill, and Zuckerberg was up there via Zoom call, and he was asked about Senator, we're a very objective company, and then the senator explains various actions that took place. Well, that's all within the parameters of the standards of community standards that we have in place to protect our... Okay, so let's not pretend like he doesn't have an ideology that he's trying to promote. And that's the other wrinkle in this. If they're truly trying to be an unbiased platform, you can't let your personal bias shine through, and yet it does. Rachel says the algorithm pushes content you'll likely watch and that polarizes opinions even further. Yes, because you'll comment and it'll get ugly, and that's just more people getting involved, and that, yeah, Facebook loves it when they make you split like that. So you're right, Rachel. And part of the study is to see, is social media responsible for that divide? And I think they definitely are at some level, for sure. All right, thank you, Instagram. Let me pop over here now to my Facebook channel, see what you guys have to say. Norma says, I'd do it in a heartbeat, talking about taking money to go offline. The money would be the whipped cream on my keto cake. Well, the thing is, if you would be willing to do that, then you're not really vested in any kind of debate or argument. And I suppose there is a bonus for people like yourself, Norma, but most people do enjoy, at least at some level, having those conversations on social media. Diane says, isn't it only like $150, Jimmy? Yes, so it's $30 for 6 weeks, so that you could have as much as $180. So it's not that much money in the grand scheme of things. But that's the thing. Are you willing to take that minuscule amount of money all just to be offline? Some people, they're so desperate for money, yeah, they would. I've been thinking of doing that myself, having a burner account, says Diane. There's a lot of people that have burner accounts. I've never felt compelled to have a burner account. Quite frankly, I'm out there enough with my name attached to it that I don't need to have any kind of fake accounts. And number one, I don't have time for that. I have enough work that I do in my day-to-day work that I don't need to be adding more work by having a burner account. But it is interesting. Bonnie says, I scroll past the political posts, so much ugliness on both sides. It can be, Bonnie, and that's the unfortunate thing. Not all political posts are contentious, but I think even someone who has the best of intentions could put something out there in a very diplomatic way, and yet it does devolve into that. It's why on that experiment that I did, I made it very clear, don't be ugly about the other person. Keep your thoughts only positive about your candidate, and if you violate this rule, you will be your comment will be deleted. And I even had to delete a few friends of mine who said what was good about their candidate, but they couldn't help themselves but put in a little bit of jab at the other one. I'm like, nope, that's against the rules. You can't do that. I'm not going to let you do that. But it is possible. Vicky says it sounds totally unethical. If they're promoting only one candidate to some of the people in this study, I don't know. I don't like that. And how do we know that they're doing it equally? Like one candidate is being promoted to a certain number of study participants, and then another candidate to the same number of study participants. Like, how do we know they're doing that? We don't. I'm almost to the point I do it for free, says Brad. Brad, you're not alone. A lot of people have done it. They've gotten offline on their own volition. Kira says, I like staying connected to my family and friends far away. I also get to follow what my son's platoon is doing. Looking on their Facebook page, Go Army. I do hate the Nutrisystem, Noom, and Weight Watcher ads. Keto is free and it works long term. Yeah, you definitely get targeted when you write about or talk about weight loss. It definitely shows up in those ads that you get shown. Thank you, Facebook. Let's pop over here now to my YouTube channel. What's up, YouTube? See what you have to say. Chris says, I didn't get to listen to the episode yet, but your Living La Vida Low Carb podcast has a guy talking about PSYOPs. I looked the word up, blah, blah, blah. Okay, yeah, Keith Norris. It was actually on the Real Talk podcast last week. You can actually watch it here on YouTube. I've got it as a Jimmy Rants bonus episode. Deborah says, Facebook has blocked some of the videos I saved that have controversial content. And they do that. They do that and yet proclaim that they're being objective. Yeah, objective, my you-know-what. And it's unfortunate. Again, who gets to decide what is information versus what is misinformation? Really hate fake news. I really hate misinformation. Those are so generic that they don't really explain what's right and what's wrong, and why what's right is right and why what's wrong is wrong. We now know, by the way, talking about Stella Emanuel, she was the Jamaican woman who made all the splash about hydroxychloroquine, zinc, and azithromycin helping with COVID-19 in the early part. And they came after her and talking about demon sperm and all these nasty stories that they did in the media about her. Well, guess what? The Texas board, medical board, actually found that there was no wrongdoing with what she said and that she should immediately be allowed to go back to being a doctor again. Now, did the media make a big splash about that? No. They didn't say anything, but that quietly happened when nobody was paying attention. And yet they still don't allow that video to be posted, even though the Texas Medical Board, which is the board that she was under, found no wrongdoing with what she said. So how is that misinformation now? And don't get me started on Dr. Fauci. This little mofo goes on to Jennifer Garner's Instagram Live the other day, and she said, are there any benefits to any of these supplements? He said, oh yeah, I take vitamin D. People should be taking vitamin D. It's good immune booster and da-da-da. And vitamin C is a really good anti-inflammatory and antioxidant. And you should definitely be having 1 to 2 grams, blah, blah, blah. And I'm going, where has this been for 6 months? Why are you just now saying this? And never mind the fact that in July, June or July, the CEO of YouTube said, well, we're going to block any video that talks about, oh, vitamin C is helpful for COVID-19. Well, guess what? The name and face of COVID-19 just came out and said vitamin D and vitamin C is a good idea for this virus. Information is not going to harm people. Let people hear the information, let them assimilate that information, analyze it and research it for themselves, and then make the decision about what they believe. The same goes for political candidates. We don't need to pay people to get off of social media. We need people to be informed. And even if that means they get exposed to some point of view that's a little out there, okay, great. I trust people's wisdom to make good choices. Let's stop trying to protect ourselves from ourselves. If there's information to be had, let the information be heard. And to me, when they started blocking the video of Dr. Emmanuel and all those other doctors, blocking it, not even allowing people to see it, why don't you, if you think there's something wrong with that, why don't you allow it to be seen and then have a counteraction to it? Respond to it. Because if it's that wrong, then tell us what's wrong with it. Guys, to date, I don't know what's wrong with appropriate amounts of hydroxychloroquine, zinc, and azithromycin. Nobody has been able to explain why that's not a good protocol in the early days of COVID-19. Within the first few days of COVID-19, you do that protocol at the appropriate doses of all three of those things. We have seen a very high 98-99% recovery rate from those people without hardly any symptoms at all. And yet you don't hear anybody talking about why that's a bad idea. Now, there's a few studies that were put out there, but all those studies used 10 times the amount of hydroxychloroquine, which is a toxic dose. But nobody's looking at it from the logical standpoint. So again, what's the misinformation? And why can't we be having those conversations in a very public forum on things like social media? That's the beauty of social media. I think social media plays a great role in allowing information to get out there, and then people in very real time being able to share their thoughts and ideas on any subject, be it diet. Like if you had a question about the keto diet and you threw it up on some kind of a board or even on your own page, within seconds, you're going to start getting people responding and sharing their experiences with you. That's what makes social media so amazing. It's not all bad, and yet they're pretending like it's bad. They are. Teresa says we react to emotions instead of facts. Well, and that is a problem as well, is there's very few facts on social media, and a lot of it is emotionally charged. The thing is, not everybody thinks that way either, Teresa. A lot of people, they think emotionally, and so it comes out emotional. And some people, they only think in facts and they have no emotion. I think having a mix of passion, which is a form of expressing emotion, and the facts along with that can make someone a powerful speaker. It's what I try to do. I have emotion. You guys have seen it very openly on camera many times. But I also have a lot of information and facts. And if I'm wrong in my facts, then please challenge me on that. Somebody challenged me. There's some draconian measures being done in Victoria, Australia right now. The premier there of the state of Victoria, Dan Andrews, is keeping people locked up in their houses. And a lot of people are starting to protest it. It's too draconian. He's pushing his power. All over a death rate of 0.00001% deaths. And so I put that out there as a statistic, and somebody said, well, you're manipulating the numbers. The numbers are actually 3.2%. And when you look at case fatality rate compared to, and I'm like, okay, that's one way to look at it, but you have to look at it from a total population. And if you look at total population, which is 6 million people, and they've had 800 deaths of 6 million people, that's 0.00001. And they're, well, you're just, you're not following scientific. I'm like, okay, fair enough. Let's use your number. The point is, it's minuscule. It's little. And yet, he was claiming I was spreading misinformation. But the greater point is, and I wish people would read this in posts, by the way, on social media. A lot of times people see what they want to see in a post rather than what's actually written. When you respond to a post, make sure you've thoroughly read the whole post and gotten the gist of what they're talking about and really understand where their position is. Because a lot of times people respond in emotion, like you were saying, Teresa, and thinking something was said in a certain way when it was not said in that way at all. So the peeing match between people is nauseating as well. No, I didn't quite say it that way. Here's what I actually said. Well, no, you actually said this, and it's this, and well, no, you just are stupid, and no, you're the stupid one. Your mama can't even put on army boots. At least my mama has army boots. Like, it just never ends. And I just don't have tolerance for that kind of nonsense. Vicky says, my chiropractor was ostracized for coming out and saying this at the beginning, and his videos were taken down. Media went crazy on him. Yeah. Well, look in Australia. There's a celebrity keto chef there named Pete Evans. And I've talked about Pete on here before. I did a whole Jimmy Rants about what they're doing to him in Australia. They basically blacklisted him because he's talking about some of his concerns regarding COVID-19 and definitely the lockdown in Victoria and all that. And they have just totally blacklisted him and making him look like a fool in article after article after article. Well, the funny thing is, Pete doesn't care. Pete's sharing truth, and Pete's getting his message out there, and his Instagram and Facebook pages keep exploding in popularity every time they talk about him. So it is unfortunate that they decide what is right and what is wrong without any kind of explanation of how they got there. Shirley says, makes me wonder if they're planning on pulling a stunt over the next 6 weeks. Oh, I have no doubts that there are things underway behind the scenes attempting to benefit one candidate over the other. I think that's obvious. Anybody paying attention right now, you know that's what's going on. Let's don't hide behind this, oh, it's going to be a fair election. No, it's not. They're trying very hard behind the scenes. And I suppose it's happening on both sides, but one side, it's very obvious that's what they're doing. And it's unfortunate. It is. But guys, Facebook, having this study, paying people to get off social media, paying people to only be exposed to targeted content. Very, very interesting. When this study gets published next year, what are they going to find? Oh yeah, we paid people $30 a week and we targeted them with all Biden ads and they voted for Biden when they were a Trump supporter. Now that'll be interesting. That'll be interesting. I don't know that that's going to happen, or vice versa. We paid people $30 a week and we gave them all Trump stuff, and then they were a Biden supporter and then they voted for Trump because they were targeted with the Trump stuff. If that happens, I'll be surprised. I think most people at this point in the election cycle, 6 weeks before the election, I think they're pretty much made up. There's a little bit of like people in the middle who are still like teetering on which side to go. But you've got maybe 40-something% of the population going one way, 40-something% of the population going the other way, and then there's this little bit in the middle that will decide who actually wins the election. It's going to be very fascinating to watch. I think I saw another comment come in over here. If you believe in the science behind keto, then you will be very skeptical of the scientific community. Walker, you are preaching to the choir, brother. Yes. And skeptical about anything that's so verifiable. Wear a mask, socially distance, stay at home, wash your hands. That's what they tell you from on high, and then never tell you about other things that are actually more beneficial than all of those things. So you're right. You're exactly right. That's it for this episode of Jimmy Rants. JimmyRants.com is the website. And as always, you can engage live in the content right here on Instagram. I'm at Living Low Carb Man, LIVINLOWCARBMAN. Once you're there, engage live. We are here Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern Time. So thank you for being here today. We also simulcast live over here on my Facebook page. So thank you guys for being here today, as well as on my YouTube channel. Thank you all for being here today on Jimmy Rants. If you missed the live, you can watch it on replay right here on IGTV. It'll go up shortly after we're done here. So go check it out there. You can also see the replay over on YouTube. Type in the keyword Jimmy Rants. You will find the show. Finally, pop on over to JimmyRants.com, the official website for this here show, and you can see all the past episodes there. Quickly approaching 600 episodes, you guys. So real excited that we have lots of content for you to check out. And if you love what I do here, and I try to split things up and change things up, do all kinds of content for you. If you like that, you like the eclecticness of this show, definitely go support my work. I have a PayPal link for a one-time donation, or you can become a Patreon where you can access some early access to my podcasts. Lots of little perks for being a Patreon supporter. All of those links, you guys, are at JimmyRants.com. So, you guys, until tomorrow on Jimmy Rants, we'll see you then.